Barbara DeGenevieve. What, if anything, do you think is learned about individual identity?
Factoring in genetics, everything is learned. I mean, genetics is going to make you a certain kind of person. You're going to have a certain level of intelligence, which will affect many things. But other than that, it's all learned.
When in your life did you realize that identity is learned or socially constructed?
Probably when I started reading Judith Butler.
Me too.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how that happens. So I would say the early 90s. And the interesting thing was that it was in relationship to Lauren Cameron, who is a female-to-male transsexual who I had met in the early 90s, probably 92 or 93. And just his process of becoming a man and becoming masculine was just such a mind fuck for me. So, I mean, I realized how much then, you know, as well as reading Butler, but just watching him, how much it was totally a construction and totally a choice, you know, on the part of the individual.
Is it possible to be unique in a world where we are hybrids of ideas and thought?
You know, the more unique we are, the more unreadable I think we are to the general culture. And uniqueness, I think, is a problematic word. I think we're maybe individuals, and that's being generous. You know, I just think that the idea of uniqueness is just so overblown, both culturally and in the arts, that, you know, we don't want to think we're not unique, but we're not. We may have like this, you know, incredible combination of individualized experiences, but we're, you know, we're in a culture in which we are all pretty much influenced by a lot of the same things. We choose what we want to incorporate in ourselves, and sometimes you can't choose what you want to incorporate, it's just incorporated. So, you know, there really isn't any real uniqueness. The idea of individuality I will accept, only because, you know, genetically I would suspect that we are unique, you know, at its basic level. But, you know, other than that, it's all such an incredible construction.
Do you believe that identity is made up of what you are or what you are not?
Probably some of each. And, you know, you always compare yourself to what you're not, what you want to be, or what you're lacking in some way. So, you know, I mean, I guess we are what we are, but we are also a little bit of what we're not, because we have that desire to be something other than what we are for the most part. You know, most of us on some level want to be something else.
Right. Or
want to be better than we are.
Yeah. Then if you think your identity is made up of what you're not, then what are you?
I'm an artist. I write. I teach. On a personal level, I'm bisexual. You know, I mean, all of those things are a big part of who I construct to be myself, or who I think of as myself. I don't want to be narrow-minded.
Right.
I'm sure some people would say that I am. You know, on certain issues, but you know, I mean, it's those sort of big things that I think we construct, or maybe just I construct, and without those markers in your life, you know, who are you? I don't know. I mean, it's like I don't have this kind of core self that I can fall back on and say, oh, if I had nothing else, I still have that. It's like, oh yeah, right. Because I mean, my identity is tied up in who I am as a teacher, an artist, you know, how I function in the world. And you take that away, and who am I? I don't know.
Right. I believe that our identity is stabilized, but in our exploration, it can become destabilized. Do you agree with that statement?
Stabilized, I would substitute stable.
Stable.
You
our identity is
believe
stable.
our identity is stable, but
And
through exploration, it becomes destabilized.
But through exploration of our identity, that can be destabilized, or it can be destabilized.
Right. I think that's all an illusion, you know, that we are stable as an identity, and it's constantly being destabilized. And when you finally become aware that it's constantly destabilized, you either accept that or you panic. You know, it's sort of like, it's almost like a chaos theory of your own life. But I think it's something that's actually pretty exciting when you really think about it, that you don't have to have this stable identity. You change. I mean, you change throughout your whole life. So if you had a stable identity, you'd be so boring. I mean, you'd be the most boring person on the planet. Well, maybe not the most boring, but, you know.
No, but perhaps.
Yeah,
that's what's so boring about really boring people, is that they have a stable identity, or they don't explore and then destabilize.
I think there's a fear of stepping outside of that construct that we think is us, you know, that core thing that is us.
But that implies that there is a stable identity, and that if you're not exploring it, then you're not destabilizing anything that was stable, because something has to be stable for it to be destabilized.
Well, if you think it's stable, you're under a total illusion. And I think many, or maybe you're delusional.
Right.
But I think many people think that their identity is stable. So, you know, when they see a chink in the armor anywhere, they don't want to explore it, and they step back from it. But it's hard to deny that there are those chinks. And anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so I believe that there is a fine line between exploitation and objectification in your work, and you discuss that. I've read some of the stuff that you discuss where, like, you talk about exploitation, objectification, but I'm confused how you can even think that you're not doing those things in your work at all.
Well, maybe I should ask you is why you think I am doing those things.
Well, how do I think you're doing those things? I guess, I mean, in all of the work that I've seen of yours, I think there are levels of exploitation and definitely objectification. But I don't think that those are bad things. Like, I feel like there's these weird things with those two words that imply manipulation, which I also kind of believe there's an element of that in your work. Which is why I think it's interesting to me, and why I'm that's why I'm interested in it, for those 3 reasons. But I guess in different pieces, different reasons. I think that in the Stephen and I, is that what it's titled?
Stephen X and Barbara C.
Stephen X and Barbara C piece, I believe that you're objectifying the idea, or you're objectifying the idea of male pedophiles and the identity of women or girls. I feel like you're objectifying those 2 ideas separately. I mean, I see them, I understand them as a piece together, but I see them as individual as well.
Well, let me stop you there. The first time the whole idea of the male gaze was totally undermined for me is when I saw Barbara Kruger's piece, Your Gaze Hits the Side of My Face.
God, so good.
Yeah, isn't it? And, you know, it's like, okay, you can talk about objectification, you can talk about exploitation all you want.
Right.
We've theorized it for 30, 35 years, whatever. But when it comes right down to it, what I wanted to do with her is let that just kind of bounce off her face, bounce off of her, you know, her sense of agency, right, which was pretty strong in the piece. And, you know, I mean, it's the same with the Panhandler piece, that if you think I'm exploiting those guys, fine, I don't care, because they don't feel like that I've exploited them, and they don't feel like they're being exploited.
That's where I feel like, especially in that piece, like, yeah, they don't feel like you're exploiting them because you're paying them $100.
So?
No, but you're paying them $100, wait, and you're giving them a one-night hotel room, and I said this in class, like, you're exploiting them for their monetary condition, which is that $100 to them is like $2,000 to me. And so, like, you're like, by giving them.
Oh, now tell me you wouldn't do something for $2,000.
But I would.
Okay, right, exactly. So, you know, we'd all do something for money. We do something for money every day. I teach because I need to have money.
Right.
So, you know, is the school exploiting me? Probably.
Yes. Yes, I do. I think they are.
But not in the way that, you know, we're actually, well, maybe. But
no,
I'm a total willing participant in that. So if you...
I know, but I mean, okay. So I feel like in the Stephen X. Barbara C. piece, you're exploiting an idea, which I think is different than exploiting a person. And you're objectifying you're objectifying like an idea or like a reality, right?
Oh, well, then we don't even have an argument. Of course I'm exploiting an idea. The idea, you know, of the art world being so politically correct that they can't see the forest from the trees. I mean, it's like...
That's awesome. That's awesome.
What is it that, you know, really is exploitive? I mean, they're never going to be able to tell me, because you've got something in your mind and then you generalize it to the rest of the world. God damn, if I think if I think these people are being exploited, they must be being exploited. Come on,
right.
You know that completely undermines the agency of the people that you're talking about.
You're right. No,
you
you're
are
right.
infantilizing the people, or not you, but you know.
No, but by thinking that they're being exploited, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
And if they don't think they are, then
they're not.
They're not. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And objectifying, yeah, I'm objectifying them, and I think they're probably fine with that, because
yes.
I think
they know
in
that they're
return. Yeah, I think they objectified me a number of times, which is fine. I don't care.
You do that.
Yeah, we do that all the time. We do it to each other. I'm looking at you. I'm thinking, she's pretty hot. I'm objectifying you.
Totally.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I mean, I think that the feminist rhetoric around objectification has exploded into this thing that makes everything that we could even imagine to be objectifying pejorative and, you know, extremely exploitive. And it's just not. I think objectification, we should just drop it, because we objectify each other all the time. We objectify ourselves. Who cares?
Where does the importance of truth fall in your artistic vision?
Truth has no real place in my artistic vision. You know, I mean, first of all, I don't know what truth is. Second of all, to lie, if you want to go to the extreme, to an audience, and if they believe that lie, fine. If they don't believe that lie, fine. I mean, what difference does it make? We're talking about art. We're not talking about world politics. We're talking about art. And I think the idea of manipulation is a big part of art, like drawing people in, no matter what your subject matter is or what your medium is, you want to manipulate the audience to pay attention to it. And, you know, if they feel manipulated as they're leaving, or in retrospect, if they find out that something isn't true and they feel manipulated, fine. I mean, I've done my job then. But, you know, the idea of truth is again one of those really unstable things. Whose truth are we talking about, you know? I've said a number of times I would love to reconstruct my own history to make it something that was much more interesting, much more exciting than the one I had. And who cares if I do that? I'm, you know, pretty much still the same person I was before I, you know, fabricated my history. But, you know, in my mind, it makes me think differently, either about myself or about the way I can present myself or whatever. I mean, you know, we're involved in these fabrications all the time. I mean, if you want to think about what you think is true, in order for someone to believe that truth, you've got to really convince them of something, you know. And so you convince them of what you think might be true, which somebody else might not think is true, or you convince them of a falsehood and that you really believe in, that you would have loved to have happened. And if it didn't happen, it would not affect the world, you know? Who cares? So, you know, the idea of truth is, for me, you know, totally unimportant.